Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to part two of my trip to Dubai. So far, we've been looking at, certain areas covering my trip to Dubai, and this is the part two of it, so stick and stay with us. To recap part one, we spoke about the inception, how I came about the idea of, traveling to Dubai. Then we also looked at, how I contacted a travel agency involved with the travel. And the third thing was also we looked at the paperwork involved, that is the visa acquisition, passports, and so on and so forth. Okay. So stick and stay with us. We're going to proceed with the next phase of the preparations. Okay. Good. Good. So now I actually have my passport ready. I have my documentation ready. I forwarded everything to my travel agency at the time. They processed all the papers and the documents, put them together, and submitted them to the embassy for processing. Within a few weeks, probably I think it was about 2 weeks or so, I was issued a visa. Okay, no work at all. I just had to submit my passport and a few other details to them, and they worked out everything. So this is why I keep recommending that if you want to travel, especially for fun, you want to have an experience, please make it a point to go with a travel agency, a recommended one as such, because they're going to make things so easy for you. Those who went on their own and all of that, they had to go through different processes. They had to put up different papers and so on, which made the entire process a bit, difficult. So at this point, I had my passport, I had my visa, then my tickets and all other travel documents were given to me. And so I was supposed to then prepare for the travel date itself. Now, this was somewhere in 2021. So I had to really, this was in the peak of the COVID situation. So I had to do a PCR test, which I had to submit upon embarking the aircraft. Okay. So I did the PCR test prior to, I think, a couple of days, I think 72 hours or so before my date of departure. So I took this PCR test to the airport on the day of travel, and it was actually one of the documents which they used to admit me onto the aircraft, or to board me or onboard me, yeah, to get me on board the aircraft. Now, let's backtrack a bit. Now I've done my PCR test. I've gotten my visa. Let's talk about the travel date itself, or the travel date which I was given, the experience going through immigration and all of that. Now, again, my travel agency did a very good job. They organized everything, gave us the appropriate timing to do check-in and all of that. Myself, since this was my first international trip, I did not want to be late. I didn't want to miss my flight and all of that. So I actually checked in 2 hours earlier than the actual check-in time that the agency gave me, or that was on my ticket. So I was actually the first person out of the group, to be present. And I got there, I think the flight was somewhere around 11 o'clock or so. I got there around 6 a.m. Okay, so the flight was at 11 a.m. I got there around 6 a.m. I went ahead and did my check-in, waited for the rest of the group to come in. We filled out a few documents here and there, and did my, checked in my luggage, and kept my hand baggage, awaiting, awaiting immigration to start their processes. So we took a few pictures, hung out at the airport, and I must say the Terminal 3, spot on. I mean, very beautiful, comparable to any international airport anywhere in the world. Okay, very, very marvelous job that was done at the Terminal 3, Kotoka International Airport. So after we took pictures, we had some food to eat and all of that. We then were called in by immigration to start with the immigration process. So they checked us and all of that. But to my surprise, in fact, all those who had blazers, jackets, and all of that, even shoes, they had to take them off. I was pretty surprised, because what at all am I going to hide in my shoes? But apparently, people smuggle drugs and smuggle illicit and contraband goods, through those their jackets or their shoes and things like that. So we had to go through all of that process. That I must say, that experience with immigration was one of the worst, or was the worst, if you like, amongst the entire trip, because nobody wants to be strip searched, nobody wants to be, ask questions and all of that, So we had to go through all of that. Thanks be to God, everything went well. Then we went into the lounge to wait for our flight. Now we waited for a couple of minutes, if not up to an hour. Then the aircraft arrived. We were flying with Emirates, and I must always recommend Emirates because Emirates is fantastic. The in-flight service, everything was just amazing about Emirates. And so, if you have the opportunity, you have the money, you want to fly, please choose Emirates over any other flight if you can afford it. Okay, so we then were asked to board. Something happened over there as well, which surprised me. Apparently, there are different classes of tickets. So we had the first class, the business class, and so on, and then the third class. So when we were asked to board the plane, the first class ticket holders were asked to board first. And I was quite surprised. I was like, really? Is this how you guys conduct business over here? My first time traveling, having an international, or, traveling internationally. So I was taken aback by that, but, well, we held our cool and we saw it through, essentially. Okay, so at the end of the day, we saw that through. Beyond that, what essentially went on was that the second batch, which was the first class, also came through. So after the first class went, then the business class, and then we, the commoners, and the third classes were now asked to onboard. This was quite strange to us. This was quite weird, but, well, at the end of the day, we're still visiting Dubai, so who cares about that? So we boarded the aircraft. The aircraft was actually huge. I'd never seen an aircraft that huge. I'd done domestic flights with smaller aircraft, but this was a mega, mega, mega aircraft. I mean, the engine was even taller than myself, and I was really, really surprised at that. Because what you see in movies and all of that, some engines, plane engines are quite small, but this was really, really huge, about twice my length, in terms of height and all of that. So I was quite, I was looking forward to such a trip on Emirates, on that particular plane. The flight was quite smooth. The interior of the plane was amazing. Everything went quite well. The food was spectacular. They even served us Ghanaian jollof, and I loved it. It was a non-stop flight right from Ghana to Dubai airport, and it took us about 8 hours or so to arrive in Dubai. We got to Dubai, and essentially, I was amazed at the airport, the Dubai airport. It was breathtaking, okay? Beautiful by all standards, had all the facilities you could think about, actually had a hotel, on one of the floors, had several floors which you could take an elevator to. This was something I didn't experience in my airport, at Terminal 3, Kotoka International Airport. So this was quite refreshing for me and the group. So we took a lot of pictures. We visited so many different places and parts of the airport. And then again, the travel agency came to our rescue, came to our aid when it came to immigration and sorting things out. We could tell at a point that they were asking questions and all of that. But our travel agency was able to just, get us through once again. we had to do a PCR test again on arrival, so that was a bit inconvenient because they had to stick that tester or whatever it is into your nostrils and scoop whatever is in your nose, and that wasn't very comfortable. So once that was done, we moved on. Now, once we're traveling in a group, it was as if Dubai authorities were actually expecting us, because every checkpoint we got to after the initial one, every other checkpoint we go, oh, are you traveling in a group? Okay, pass. So it was pretty easy because we're in a group and all of that. Now, again, our travel agency was able to organize airport pickups. There was a Ghanaian who is resident, or a tour guide who is resident in Dubai, and he organized a bus and came to pick us up from the airport. That was also amazing, because one thing you should know when you're traveling to Dubai is that transportation, in-city transportation, is very expensive, and most of them you have to book ahead of time. It's not as easy to just get a taxi. Even if you do, it is pretty expensive. So it's either you work with an agency on that level, or you pre-book, or you should be prepared to dole out a lot of cash, because it's pretty expensive to get around in Dubai. Okay, so yeah, they picked us up. We drove around. I was pretty shocked at their road networks and the number of lanes. They had up to 7 lanes for most of their roads. Clean roads, no potholes. I'll tell you about that in part 3, all right? So we got to our hotel very late. The hotel was also amazing, lovely pool and all of that. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'll end part 2 here. I'll tell you more about part 3 and more about the hotel and how we had fun in Dubai, subsequently. So stick and stay. Bye-bye for now.